three main issues: rewards, difficulty, and a disconnect of the idea of what a dungeon even is. I'm coming at this from the angle of someone who has played Guild Wars 2 Fractals, World of Warcraft Mythic Plus, and Criterion and Final Fantasy XIV, and obviously a shit ton of expert roulette over the years. Broken expectations. Broken expectations is what I really do want to talk about before those three other points that I raise, because I feel right now that the entire idea of simply having harder dungeons in Final Fantasy XIV has been turned more into the idea of a raid gauntlet in 7.4. Hey, that's great for raiders, I agree. Heck, I'm going to be trying it myself. I look forward to it. There's already a few people that are asking me, and I haven't really settled on a group yet, but I'm excited about that. But we're missing something, which is the casual players who want something more stimulating than an expert roulette dungeon, like a more difficult scaling difficulty expert dungeon. Imagine a piece of content where it is not 2 packs of mobs and then a wall every single time. And unfortunately, I think that that's going to be a point that people just wave to the side, just be like, oh, I don't care. But that is something I have literally, myself, personally talked to thousands of people over, admittedly, a few years since Criterion's come out in the first place, and unanimously they said their expectations for what this was going to be were broken. And it continues to be broken in 7.4. First, the main issue that has kept most people from going into Savage Criterion was there was such a massive spike in difficulty from Variant to the Criterion normal. I'm not even talking about the Savage, but to most average players, that felt insurmountable. Like, Variant was, in their own words, and I'm quoting a friend, mind-normingly boring Hello Kitty world slop content. Then all of a sudden they were getting slapped across the face and punched in the throat, and they were going, holy shit, where's this difficulty spike from hell coming from? Also, hey, if you're reacting to this on Twitch, don't play coy. You and I both know that we've heard from people this exact issue. It wasn't exactly hidden. In fact, a lot of people were really loud about it. But given that we haven't had anything throughout the entire expansion, we're coming on to 7.4, which is quite deep into the expansion. I just want to remind everyone, this was everywhere. And now I'm going to talk about Savage Criterion Dungeons. Many people who I spoke to who have done Ultimates, who have cleared the Savage Criterion Dungeons, all of them, compared Savage Criterion to doing an Ultimate. I know some people may disagree, but that is the sentiment that I'm getting, because it is such an endurance test. It is so many different mechanics that you need to know in a very strict order. Now I'm going to say something that should get you mad, especially if you're a casual player. This difficulty problem that we know we've historically had could have easily have been solved by introducing a system like Quantum into the Criterion Dungeon, where you're going to be controlling and able to scale the difficulty in your favor. This would make this more reminiscent of something like World of Warcraft's Mythic Plus system or Guild Wars 2's Fractals, where you basically get to control how difficult it is, and you're rewarded in turn for how difficult it is. And I do want to also say that World of Warcraft's Mythic Plus system and Guild Wars 2 Fractals are incredibly popular pieces of content. There's a lot of people who do it. Like World of Warcraft, for me, I don't play Warcraft to raid. What I do there is Mythic Plus almost exclusively. However, in patch 7.4, Quantum wasn't done, and we're going to have the same very easy Hello Kitty variant mode that we've seen now 3 times before, and then players are going to hit a boom, smash right into the wall. Why do I say this? Because we've seen it 3 times before. And that wall is going to make most of the player base drop off of this content again, a 4th time. And remember, underlying all of this, the bedrock of Final Fantasy XIV's problems that I have been raising the alarms on since late 2023, when I personally had lots of friends quitting, we sorely need casual content in this game. We need more clear paths to success, and that's what I almost want to call it over casual content. Just things that you can just, after your day job, you get off work, you can just go on. You don't need to organize a raid group or wait in Party Finder for a ninja slot to open, and oh my god, all these groups are this, and then you just wait, and then the party disbands. We need a clear path to success for players, for a ladder to build confidence in newer raiders, and that's something we have sorely needed for years. Criterion could have been the gateway to that, and that's probably why I'm so mad at making this video. Real talk, I held off on making it for a few days because I really wanted to let myself marinate in my thoughts and be like, wait, this is actually kind of really lame. But even for casual content, let's look at this and be honest. History is the best indicator of future performance, and I remain very skeptical about the longevity of Variant even for for casual players. How long did variant last for casual players in the past? And then again, most casuals I talked to got walled at normal Criterion, not even talking about Savage. My second big point is that rewards are crucial to get right. Whether we want to admit it or not, most people, there really does need to be shiny at the end to get them to do something. My own personal experience is that it has been drastically easier to get friends to go into Aloalo Savage purely because of the shiny glowy weapons at the end, of course. However, with this point, I'm torn right in half right now because Pilgrim's Traverse, the deep dungeon portion, is incredibly rewarding. And for those who aren't familiar, Pilgrim's Traverse was just released like 2 months ago, and it's so incredibly rewarding, the deep dungeon part. It even has weeklies. Unfortunately, those are kind of hidden from you. They're buried in the challenge log. Let me put this actually as a timestamp. I think it would genuinely go a long way for Final Fantasy XIV to have a weekly tracker and to start to throw in weekly content like the Pilgrim's Traverse into it. And I'm presuming that advanced variants specifically will have a similar structure where you get bonus rewards for doing one clear a week. I think that this is a great idea, and it should be framed in its own UI element and very visual to people, especially because we're going to have a lot of people returning for 8.0 when the hype cycle really begins. I do believe having that UI element will go very far to framing this content in a positive light. This, to me personally, and again, I'm being super honest and I'm critical when I need to be, and I'm gonna praise it when I think it's good. This reward system is an excellent step forward, so long as there are rewards at the end that justify it, and for Pilgrim's Traverse deep dungeon part, believe it was the case. However, this is what I was getting at, there's gotta be the dark part of it. Quantum rewards were abysmal to the point that I said in my own video that I genuinely question if it is self-sabotage of the quantum difficulty system. Unfortunately, some people are going to be critical and say that's flippant or clickbaity, but I am genuinely concerned when the first piece of content to get a difficulty ladder didn't have more scaling rewards, when the only exclusive reward from clearing was literally only from Quantum 40, and it was only a title. And it doesn't matter what the words were, it could be like the Guna of Legend, like... Okay, maybe that would be like there, but because it would be so unexpected. But my point is, there's no grind or slow progression reward to incentivize newer raiders who can't do Quantum 40. Like, let's say that, because like Quantum 40 is definitely a noticeable step up in difficulty. Don't be confused if you see people who literally have their full-time job being raiding, being able to do the content, and just be like, oh yeah, I can do it easy, bro. For most people, they're not going to do that. It's not that easy. But for most people who are trying to get onto the raiding track, and like what I was saying before, the quote-unquote path of success, they could slowly get a trickle of rewards through Quantum that they're working towards. Let's say they're starting with Quantum 20 and they're walled there. Then they pass that, then they can do a little harder at 22, then make them a bit more progress and convert, and they get to 24 and then to 26, slowly raising their skill level. No. We got none of that. Hence where my criticism of Quantum's rewards is so direct. It feels like sabotage because it's missing the core tenet of it, which is that you're going to slowly like get better and progress and get more and more and more rewards, and that you're building up something. Unfortunately, you're not really getting that. Now, apply those concerns to Criterion, and that is exactly why I'm worried about the reward structure for that. Now, my third big point is about dungeon feel. I could also call this dungeon homogenization, which, unfortunately, I'm not using that word flippantly. Dungeon feel is something that I've raised before during Criterion's first release. As someone who has done Mythic Plus, Criterion felt nothing like it. As someone who has done Guild Wars 2 Fractals, it feels nothing like it. It is breaking the expectation of what a dungeon is. The ads don't feel like ads in WoW or Guild Wars 2. They feel like mini, solo, single target, solo pulled mobs, like, or quote unquote mini boss fights, and then they're followed up by an extreme trial. You mostly wanted to do a single pull and then a single target rotation on them until they were finished. This is completely detached from the idea of it being a dungeon, especially given Final Fantasy XIV. They used to release multiple a patch, but now it's like one dungeon that goes alongside the MSQ. That's not how those dungeons have been structured ever in this game. Even the newest one that was just released was 7.3. It's not the same. It doesn't follow the expectation of a dungeon. And Like, I really do genuinely respect Xeno a lot, so don't get it twisted when I say this, but I have watched this video, obviously, and I couldn't possibly disagree more with the idea that it's a good thing that this content presumably will remove ads, the quote-unquote trash phases, like the little mobs that you're trying to, like, take out before the, like, raids. And I agree that it's much better for Final Fantasy XIV's raids to not have them between it. Like, I don't want to see 14's raids become WoW raids, but again, this is a dungeon. This is still a dungeon, and we're breaking the expectations down. We are now homogenizing this content down to just be a boss gauntlet. I find that to be a loss. It's just raid after raid after raid after raid. We already have raids. We already have plenty of raids, and now I know that people are going to be like, but Ultimate was delayed from 7.3. I get it, guys. I was actually excited to do that too, unironically. But my point is, I found the way that the trash even was put into Final Fantasy XIV at first jarring. Like I said, it was not what I expected coming from Mythic Plus and obviously having done dungeons in Final Fantasy XIV. And these were not harder dungeon trash phases that were harder to predict than what we already know. What do you think is going to happen in the 7.4 dungeon, Cole? I think that there's going to be 2 trash poles and then a wall that you can't cross because fuck the idea of chain pulling. And then there's going to be a boss. And then there's going to be 2 trash packs you pick up, and then a wall, and then a boss. And I laugh just because it drives me insane. And so it's just like, we could do so much more, and we are actively choosing not to, and we are praising not to. Bro, I could not be more clear with when I say this. I want us to break away from that design. It's so predictable. It's so awful. And we are missing a core element that could be amped up, made more difficult, twisted, rotated, just anything different. I want to use more of my toolkit in dungeons as a healer. When was the last time repose was useful? And this is a bit of a trick question. Most people are going to be like, oh, he's not even going to say he even remembers. It was specifically the level 89 dungeon on the turtle at the end. And I didn't even have to look that up just because I remembered it so well. Because it was that novel and unique enough that I still remember interrupting that stupid little AoE that it did. And the melees loved that. So, I mean, my point being, we need less homogenization of literally everything in this game, and you're going to get a diluted version of it, but you'll have to forgive me for being tired. Job homogenization, healer homogenization. No, bad Sage, you get in line. You can't stack the 2 damage over time effects after the media tour, bitch, because Sage needs to be like every other healer and put a 30-second dot on a target. Who do you think you are, Sage, you bitch? No summoner can't be a pet chop or a dot chop. Now instead just be a physical rage with pretty animations. No pet, bitch. No scholar can't have more damage buttons. Joy spamming broil, bitch. Bro, I hate it so much, and you know I have hated it for so long. I hate it. I'm just tired of the homogenization, man. And then hearing homogenization of now dungeon content makes me genuinely feel exhausted. And again, I have nothing but respect for the dude. Like, I legit do respect him. But hell, now that more people are playing Guild Wars 2, I can even point to Guild Wars 2. I can even, like, their Fractal system. Fractals gets their own affixes that change the dungeon, and Fractals can scale the difficulty. So, for Final Fantasy XIV, I feel that the entire idea of simply having harder dungeons of 14 has simply been turned into a raid gauntlet. And that's great for raiders, but what about the casual players who just want something more stimulating than an expert dungeon? Like something that, like a more difficult scaling expert dungeon. And this is something that I've heard being talked about in behind the scenes for like years now, and I think that it would be so beneficial to the game. Because let's be honest, expert roulette is just mind-numbing at this point. Like, we could reuse expert roulette, we could put a quantum system on it, we could add new rewards that people work towards, that if you do harder quantum, you have like more that you get, and like different tiers of rewards even. Like, we could really truly make such a beautiful system here. And so you're gonna have to forgive me for being a little disheartened, honestly, at the news that we got here. It's not because I hate the game, it's because I genuinely thought it could have been so much more. And so I'm like left here at like, bro, like grr.